Sim racing can be a lonely hobby sometimes, but occasionally, the people in your life remind you why you do it. My girlfriend actually bought me the car and a collection of tracks as a gift, specifically so I could finally step up and join the Porsche Cup. I honestly cannot be grateful enough for her support. It was finally time to move away from the starter cars and get into some truly serious racing. Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most iconic tracks in the world, and arguably one of the most dangerous in a car that wants to kill you if you mistreat the brake pedal. I was excited, I was nervous, and I was about to find out exactly how much I still had to learn. After that initial excitement, I did what any impatient sim racer would do. I arrogantly jumped into a race after barely any practice, and let me tell you, the universe quickly put me back in my place. I wasn't able to control the car, my consistency was non-existent, and Spa was eating me alive. But I just couldn't help myself. I had to get that real taste of racing this new, meta car. The races were absolutely horrible. I did 3 of them, and by the end of the night, I had lost almost 0.2 iRating, dropping me back down to 1.4K. And my safety rating? Let's just say it took a hit. I don't even want to mention right now. It was a night of pure disappointment. Even my girlfriend, bless her heart, was visibly sad to have gifted me something that brought me so much frustration. There were so many rage quits, I actually deleted the race recordings out of pure anger. And mostly, it was all me. I screwed up. Either I couldn't keep the car on the track, or I completely lost control and sometimes, I crashed. But in the midst of all that carnage, I had another humbling realization. The Porsche Cup isn't a fixed setup series. People were actually tuning their cars to make them faster and handle better. I was going in completely blind. Thankfully, some helpful folks in the practice server pointed me in the right direction, and I was able to load a default Spa config. But even then, I was still incredibly slow. I was going off track more often than I was on it. In 2 races alone, I racked up over 17 incidents each. Luckily, I avoided any disqualifications, but there were definitely some races where I just couldn't manage to finish. It was clear. The Porsche Cup was going to be a much tougher climb than I expected. I want to take you into one of the races where I actually felt like I was starting to figure it out. I managed a decent start, picked up a position at La Source, and kept it pinned through Eau Rouge and Radillon. I arrived at Les Combes side by side with the car in front, looking for a clean move. Everything felt right. Out of nowhere, I was launched off the track. I didn't see anyone near me, I didn't hear a dive bomb. I was just gone, thrown out of the race by a hit I couldn't even understand. It wasn't until I sat down to watch the replay that the madness revealed itself. 3 rows behind me, the car on the far left decided to turn in as if no one else existed. He wiped out the entire row, sending cars into the barriers. But here's the kicker. Thanks to some interesting iRacing physics, one of those wrecked cars actually seemed to accelerate off the barrier, rocketing across the track like a heat-seeking missile directly into my rear quarter panel. After being launched into the barrier, I had to wait for the tow truck and then serve what felt like a life sentence in the pits. If you're new to the Porsche Cup, here's the fun part. There is no quick repair option. None. It's an official series, and yet, one mistake from someone else means your race is effectively over. I get the argument for realism. I really do. In a private league or a professional endurance race, you want that tension. But come on, man. This is a video game. We are here to race. Instead, I'm sitting here for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Do you know how much iRating insanity you lose just staring at a countdown timer? It's frustrating beyond belief. Anyway, I served my time. I sat through the penalty, watched the field disappear into the distance, and eventually rejoined the track. At this point, I wasn't racing for a podium. I was racing just to salvage whatever pride and safety rating I had left. but the damage to the car and my mood was already done. Staying in the race mentally was the hardest part. Even after waiting 7 minutes, the car wasn't fully repaired. It felt wounded, unpredictable, and heavy. I was fighting the wheel just to keep it in a straight line. Thanks to a few other drivers ahead of me getting caught in their own chaos, I somehow climbed up to P17, but I was carrying a black flag like a mark of shame. I was struggling. I lost control a couple of times and went off track more than I'd like to admit, eventually racking up 17 incidents. And here's the part that really tilted me. I served the drive-through penalty, but for some reason, the black flag wouldn't clear. I couldn't figure out if it was a glitch or if I had missed a technicality in the rules. It was just one more thing piling onto a night that had already gone completely sideways. We just kept bleeding points. iRating, safety rating, pride, it was all draining away. P17 never felt so much like a loss. It was a brutal reminder that, honestly, I'm just not ready for the Porsche Cup or this car yet. I need more practice. I think I need more time in the Toyota Cup to really get a grasp on racing in large packs and handling a car more capable than the Mazda. The road to 2K isn't a straight line, and sometimes you have to take a step back to eventually move forward. Now let's look at another race. Before we start, I need to explain something. In Turkish, we have a very descriptive saying for situations like this, "Bok yoluna gitmek." If I translate it literally, it's a bit earthy. But in the context of sim racing, it means to be ruined or taken out for absolutely no reason. To have your race ended by a situation that was completely pointless and avoidable. It's when you do everything right, but you still end up in the trash because of someone else's nonsense. It was the perfect summary for my night. Bok yoluna gitmek was the theme of this race. I qualified P6, which was surprisingly high, but I have to be honest, the strength of field was quite low that night. I wasn't necessarily the fastest guy out there, but I was lucky enough to complete 2 qualifying laps without going off track, which was more than half the grid could say. I felt like I might actually be able to carve out a decent result and recover some of the pride I lost at Spa, but in a lobby like this, starting near the front just meant I had a clearer view of the disaster that was about to find me anyway. After the start, I lost 2 positions. I was struggling a bit with the pace, but I was able to hang out in the middle of the pack. At this stage of my journey to 2K, I'm mostly focusing on safety and finishing with low incidents. In my humble opinion, safety rating is the most important thing. It's your ticket to eventually racing with cleaner, more professional drivers. I managed to get a great exit from Radillon and was tucked right behind P6 and P7. Then, the shit happened. The driver in P6 couldn't keep it on the road and self-destructed into the barriers. To be honest, I was completely confused. It happened so fast that I didn't know which way to go. I lifted off the throttle to try and navigate the debris, but then the physics kicked in. Again, thanks to the iRacing physics, the car didn't just stay at the wall. It bounced back into the middle of the track like a rubber ball and took me out completely. I found myself back in the iRacing Gulag. Another 7 minutes of my life gone, staring at a countdown timer while the rest of the field raced on. And just like before, even after that massive wait, the car wasn't completely fixed. It was a wounded beast, but I wasn't going to quit. I put it back in gear and headed back out. By that point, the race was effectively over. I was just driving to reach the checkered flag. I finished at the very bottom in P21 with 12 incidents to my name. It felt like a repetitive nightmare. Of course, this meant another deep cut into my iRating and my safety rating. My journey to 2K had officially turned into a journey to rock bottom. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you're trying to build something and show progress. But this is the reality of the climb. Sometimes you don't just hit a speed bump. You hit a wall, you bounce back, and you lose everything you worked for in a single night. Now we come to the final race of the night. This one was a 2-part disaster. First, it was my own total screw-up, and then complete mayhem. As the lights went green, I didn't realize it, but my wheel was turned. Thinking back on it now with a calm mind, it makes sense. I had been spinning and losing control so much in practice that I must have left the wheel misaligned without even noticing. I caused absolute havoc right at the start and found myself at the very bottom of the pack before I even hit second gear. But the weird thing was, I wasn't even angry anymore. I had reached a point of total emotional numbness. I just put it in gear and kept going. It was only the beginning of the race, and in this lobby, you never know what's going to happen. People were dying or getting killed all over the track. If I could just make it to the end, maybe there was something left to salvage. After my disaster at the start, I saw another driver recovering at the exit of La Source and decided to tuck in behind him. In my head, we were buddies from that moment on. Two survivors just trying to make something out of a broken race. There was absolutely no point in fighting him. We just needed to work together to catch the pack. But as we reached La Combe, things took a turn. He slowed down a lot more than I expected entering the corner. At first I was frustrated, but then I saw why. A car was spun sideways, completely blocking the middle of La Combe. He was actually right to slow down, but my momentum was already there. I tried to squeeze past on the right, but I couldn't avoid the contact. By the time I cleared that mess, I was already sitting on 8 incident points, and we weren't even halfway through. Surprisingly, my buddy let me pass at Bruxelles. Maybe he saw I had a bit more pace, or maybe he just wanted to stay away from the chaos I was carrying. Either way, I was ahead, but the victory was short-lived. I was still wrestling with a damaged car, and at a track as demanding as Spa, that's a recipe for disaster. I struggled just to keep the car within the white lines. The damage made it feel like I was driving on ice, and it was practically impossible not to pick up off-track penalties. Every time I pushed even a little, the incident counter ticked up. By lap 6, the inevitable happened. I hit 17 incidents. The black flag came out, and I had to head back into the pits to serve a drive-through penalty. Somehow, I managed to stay alive until the very end. Through sheer luck and the fact that so many others couldn't finish their races, I actually climbed back to P12. But the cost was high. I collected 20 incidents, total fuel for our trip to Butcherland. Whether I gained a tiny bit of iRating in this specific race doesn't really matter. The damage was done. In just a few sessions, we've plummeted to almost 1.2k iRating. That's a loss of nearly 400 points in what feels like the blink of an eye. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I've realized something important. I'm just not ready for this car or this series yet. The road to 2K isn't a race, it's a process. I'm going to take a step back, put in the practice hours, and maybe spend some more time in the Toyota Cup to sharpen my racecraft before I try to tame the Porsche again. We're going to do this the right way, one lap at a time. If you've been through a slump like this, or if you have any advice on how to handle the Porsche 992.2 without ending up in the barriers, please leave a comment below. I'm all ears. Thank you for watching the struggle, and I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, with a bit more safety rating.